This video is made possible by Tab for a Cause. If you take a second to install the completely free Chrome extension, every time you open up a new tab in your browser, a small donation will be made to a charity of your choosing. That's tab.gladly.io/Volksgeist.
Where to start? It was right before the most difficult year of my life that Blunt came out.
Listening to Frank Ocean is as close as I can get to my dream state while I'm awake.
Where all the worries of the future are washed away as we're indulged in this moment of our youth, and we're no longer focused on the stress stemming from our uncertainty of where we're going to be in a few years. We're focused on now. And in the background, I thought that I was dreaming when you said you loved me.
As a child, I'd always struggled with the idea of restraint. The reality of mandatory directions in any capacity from school to work, even romance, I took as a threat to my mental worth. This stress followed me well into my late teens, where I was introduced to Frank Ocean's music, and Frank Ocean musically was the exact opposite of the very thing I'd struggled with for most of my life.
When I think of Frank Ocean's music, words like colorful, cinematic, and vivid come to mind. Even his last name, Ocean, evokes a sense of visuals and imagery for me, which is ironic for an artist as elusive as Frank. Aside from a handful of music videos, live performances, and appearances, all we're really left with is the music, which might feel lacking were it not for the great pictures he's able to paint through his songs alone. From the first moments of Nostalgia Ultra, we get a sort of establishing shot with the tape player sounds clicking and winding. Throughout the whole tape, there are interludes and ad-libs of talking, laughter, lighter sparks, and more ambience that makes it feel like more than just a collection of songs we're listening to. Frank's lyrics on interpretations like American Wedding are pure visual storytelling.
I think the best thing about Frank's persona is that he stays humble by never feeding too hard into his celebrity. You might see him on Instagram riding bikes in Manhattan one day or hanging out in London the next. He gets around, but not in the public eye.
An artist without regulations or some kind of musical outline. If I was satisfied with the alternative hip-hop direction of a track like Novacane, I was equally impressed with the R&B electropop fusion of a track like Pyramids. An artist without obligatory methods to the music industry and even his own fan base. The mandatory directive that is an album rollout is a plague that has dominion over many artists, Frank being one of the exceptions. Regardless of the demand for his music by fans after the release of an album like Channel Orange, he managed to quarantine himself for years until he saw fit to musically reappear. Such discipline and regard for the intimacy of his own life seemed to effortlessly show itself within his art. I guess one could say I respect Frank Ocean a lot for that. Not only for musically creating additions to what seemed like unfinished chapters of his private life, but pioneering the idea of an unbound artist. It gives me hope.
Frank's music is a window into feelings that we might normally only feel after experiencing loss. It's a reminder that you have to take life day by day, that everything that worries us is really, in the end, completely unimportant. But all the same, life is precious, and what really matters is the people you share it with.
Blonde is really about self-loathing. The album was something he made for himself to cope with what it's like to be your own worst enemy. It highlights the repetitiveness and depression you fall into when you can't break away from bad habits, regret, and a love that tears you apart. The album is for anyone who knows what it's like to struggle with knowing what is right and doing absolutely the opposite. I hear Godspeed and I remember all of the nights I sat in my room wondering if it was possible that I had really met the love of my life, wondering why I was letting him go. I hear Solo and I remember a cold bathroom floor wondering who my true friends were. I fell in love to Frank Ocean's Blonde. I learned who I was to Blonde, and I learned to be free.
Listening to Frank, you're turning the pages of his life, his successes, his failures, his adventures, and vacations. That's why I don't mind waiting for new music at all. As long as he keeps exploring the world, he'll keep making albums. Well, knock on wood. Oh god, imagine if he got bored and started making shoes. I'd be crushed.
It was right before the most difficult year of my life that Blonde came out. There are numerous songs from the project that have stuck with me, but none of them did the same way as White Ferrari. Spending each day of the year listening to it in my car, late at night with a freshly printed driver's license in my wallet. 16 going on to 17. There was a lot of change happening in my life. New experiences provoking new questions I had about the world, new conflicts, new people, and new opportunities. It was a time where people came and went. I care for you still, and I will forever. It was a time for growth. Some nights I would pull over to sit and look up through the sunroof of my 2007 Honda Accord. It's laughable, but it didn't matter because it put me somewhere else. This album made solitude comfortable and enjoyable. It gives you space to think. You know the line, I'm sure we're taller in other dimensions. You say we're small and not worth the mention. This album isn't for the public moments in life. It's a place to go, to vacate, and to make you ask questions.
This video is made possible by Tab for a Cause. If you take a second to install the completely free Chrome extension, every time you open up a new tab in your browser, a small donation will be made to a charity of your choosing. Use the link in the description to save the environment, feed the hungry, or support a number of different humanitarian causes. That's tab.gladly.io/Volksgeist.